This is Kevin Pruitt with another episode of Rising Tide Startups, and my guest tonight is Phil Gramm. Phil, thanks for joining us on Rising Tide. How are you?
What's up, Kevin? I am super excited to be here, and thanks for having me on. Ready to do this.
So tell us a little bit about who Phil Gramm is.
That's a loaded question, but we'll just tell you the good stuff. How about that?
That's right. Hey, you got the mic.
All right. Well, so I'm based in Seattle, Washington, and I have an amazing wife and 3 kids. And I used to be in the corporate world. You know, I started as a sales manager and worked my way up, or I started as a sales rep and worked my way up as a sales manager and did that for quite a few years. But probably I'm trying to think how long ago it was. 6 or 7 or 8, probably about 7 or 8 years ago, transitioned into running my own business, becoming an entrepreneur. And I own my own ad agency. We focus on like Facebook advertising for entrepreneurs and businesses. We also do like SEO and YouTube ads and a lot of different things.
Right.
But like we do a lot of Facebook ads for people. And I love it because it allows us to give especially entrepreneurs an advantage that 5 or 10 years ago they never could have gotten. And so we focus on that, and we have all kinds of different clients, and I love it because I love helping people. So that's kind of in a nutshell. I also actually, one other thing too is I'm real big on mindset. You know, I changed my life through mindset, and sometimes people don't always really think of mindset with business, but to me, mindset is everything. It's such a big part of my success. And so I try and if I am consulting with a client, sometimes I have to just sneak mindset in, because it's so helpful. And so I also love that because it makes a big difference to your success, in my opinion.
So for those listening to the podcast, sometimes we take a step up the staircase here because we had a guest on not long ago her name was Fanny Myth, and Fanny is the one that put Phil and I in connection with each other. And Phil you were actually a coach for Fanny, were you not?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
I mean, she credits you with virtually everything that she's done, and
she's done a great job.
Facebook is just blowing up. I mean,
absolutely.
It's so entertaining and so well done and she says, when I talked to her offline, she said, "Hey, this is Phil Gramm. So this is why I'm doing what I'm doing is because of that." So I appreciate your humility, but she was really saying that you had a large hand in everything that she's doing. So
that was really, thank you for saying that. That was kind. She's a great action taker. That makes such a big difference. Yeah. She puts in the work and she's done extremely well. And so, I love seeing that kind of stuff motivates me so much. I love seeing when somebody wants something and they put in the work and they're willing to do it. That's what gets me up every day, helping people.
It's easier to coach people that way too.
Totally.
I mean, just coaches in general. I mean, just, basketball coaches, football coaches, you have a motivated player that has less talent. They would rather have that than a talented player without motivation. So
1,000%. Yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned just a little bit about kind of changing your life. I mean, did I see somewhere online that you used to be like 300 pounds? I mean,
yes, you did.
Tell us a little bit about that. That wasn't one of the questions I was going to ask you, but you mentioned kind of that, my life changed through mindset. What happened?
Yeah, I've got a post somewhere on Facebook. It's from last year about how losing 125 pounds, 3 things I learned losing 125 pounds that taught me to, better run a business. And I ended up losing, it was probably more than 125. It was probably like 135 plus, it was a lot. And I literally changed my life. So back in the old me was the corporate me. And, I was traveling all the time and, I was just so overweight and I hated it.
Out all the time.
Oh yeah. And I just, I hated it. But here's the interesting thing. And this is why I always say mindset over tactics. And we always teach both and both are important. But for many years, I knew what to do to lose weight. Like everybody knows if you want to lose weight, you have to eat healthy and you have to exercise. Like people intrinsically know that. And I knew that. And I kind of tried things, but it didn't work. So finally, enough was enough. And I went beast mode. I call it beast mode. I want to write a book on that.
Of course you do. You're in Seattle.
Yeah, right. I literally wanted to create a program and write a book on that, but Marshawn Lynch smartly trademarked the beast mode term, which was good, but good for him. But I went in beast mode and I changed everything. I did a complete 180-degree change with my life in terms of like losing all the weight. I went from hating working out to working out really hard twice a day, 7 days a week, for years. And that transformation, the tactics helped, but the mindset I had to put myself into in order to accomplish that was actually what made the difference, and so that's changed my life. And I use that same mindset in my business and as an entrepreneur, because like I'm sure and the listeners and watchers know that like as an entrepreneur, or if you're in a small business, there's so many ups and downs.
Sure.
It's crazy. It can be really, really challenging. And that's where that mindset has come in. So that's like I look back on that and it was really hard going through that. It was kind of like walking through fire.
Yep.
But I'm glad I did it. And I use those lessons I learned in all areas of my life.
So you just woke up one day and looked in the mirror and said, man, I am more disgusted with what I see that's going to motivate me to get to where I want to be, even though it's going to be a painful process. And I know I've got to go through a lot to get there. You just got to the point where you just kind of broke.
Enough was enough.
Yeah. Enough was enough.
I started writing on my hand, I how much I was going to lose. And I literally, it was just beast mode. It didn't, like, I was so focused. It didn't matter if I was at the gym, there could have been like bombs going off around me. I probably wouldn't have heard it because I was just so locked in. And that changed everything for me. I was mad, kind of like mad at the world, because I had tried for years prior to that and it didn't work.
Yep.
And so there was a lot of feelings and frustrations and stuff with that. And people, sometimes treat you differently, that's a lot of weight to lose, Don't
want to go to the beach.
No. No. And the funny thing though is, during that whole time I was in sales, I always did really well, dealing with people, but it was my inner thoughts, like I would like assume that people were thinking, oh, this guy looks like crap, blah, blah, blah. And some of them might have been. Luckily it didn't affect me in terms of like career and stuff, but it was just not good, and I finally, enough was enough, and I made the change, and I'm so glad I did. I'm a different person because of that.
Well, I don't want to belabor the point because I called to talk to you about your digital marketing agency. I think two things are so connected. I think, as you're talking about mindset, you're talking about lifestyle. So would you look back and say that in your sales career, did you go beast mode in your sales career? Were there things in your personality that would lead you to say, okay, I'm either 0 or I'm 100. There's no middle ground here, and you approach, work this same way. Do you go beast mode, doing digital marketing? You'll beast mode doing coaching.
I do. Yeah, that's actually a great question. One thing about me is I'm too competitive. I am very competitive. I've always been like this. Even as a little kid, I grew up competitive. If I lose, I get mad. I'm not a good loser. Like I'm a sore loser. It makes me physically ill if I play a game and I lose. So that's not the best trait necessarily, but
it's got to be channeled.
Yeah, exactly. Got to be smart about it. As
Russell
a kid,
Wilson's competitive.
Yes,
but you just never see it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Like I'm one of those guys. Like if I see, even now, like if I see a football game, and like if you see Tom Brady and they lose, he's not going to smile.
Oh yeah.
Some guys will smile. Like if I lose a game, I cannot smile. Like I got to figure out how to get back in there and win that game as soon as humanly possible. How do we get back to the next game? So I think that was just part of me from a very small kid, and so I grew up just always being ultra competitive and stuff. And and that does go with me in business because I have that not only for myself, but also for clients.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I even want it for them more than they want it for themselves in some cases, like sure. I really want everybody to win. So I think that has helped me in some ways. And in other ways, it can be a challenge too.
Well, especially if you're coaching someone, I mean, they're either going to buy in or they're not. I mean,
Yes.
there's no kind of mediocre middle here. I mean, if you
Yep.
buy in, we'll really soar. If you don't buy in, you're going to be miserable. I'm going to be miserable. We might as well just, not get
Yep.
into this too far. So it is interesting that, I mean, as we can see, I mean, every podcast interview I do, we look back and think of how all the pieces that kind of fell into place to get you where you are, which is actually a really good segue to my next question. So what was the transition from your corporate sales job to your digital marketing agency? What was the trigger? And was this kind of in the same line of work, or was there any relation in the sales world to what you're doing now, or
No,
how did you
so
end up there?
totally different line of work, but I ended up working for myself because the company I was working for had gone through some bankruptcies and tons of layoffs. And eventually I was laid off. I was making six figures. I was, a sales manager. And after enough layoffs, boom, I was it. And so I was forced to make a decision. The interesting thing is, prior to that, I had always had a side hustle. So I love marketing.
Yeah.
Like, I've been like online marketing since like at least the year 2000, maybe even a little bit before then.
That's early days.
It is. I remember when you could get Google AdWords, like mortgage keywords for 5 cents a click, whereas now they're like $50 a click. Like, so I always had side hustles going because I loved it, but when I got laid off, it's one thing to have a side hustle going and you're still making, good money. You're making 5 or 6 figures or whatever somebody's making. But when you lose that and all of a sudden you lose all sense of security, that was like, man, that woke me up.
Yep.
I had to make a decision.
Yep.
Do I go all in on this or do I not? And that was the catalyst. So had I not, like, getting laid off was such a gift because I would not have quit, even though like it wasn't my passion, but I was getting paid enough that it would have been hard to quit. I don't think I never, and I was overweight, like getting laid off, it changed everything for me because after that point is when I decided to change everything, lose all the weight, start my own business and stuff like that. So at the time it seemed, it was so scary and miserable, but it's one of the best things that ever happened to me.
And this is in the last couple of years, last year and a half. How long has it been?
Oh, it's been like 7 years, maybe, or 8 years.
Okay. So I thought you were talking about your weight loss was just in like the last 2.
Oh, no. Weight loss was, probably been like 8 years, something like that. Yeah. So somewhere between 7 and 9 years in that range.
Right.
Yeah.
You can go back look at your diary and it'll type.
Been a while. Yeah. I'll have to message you a before and after.
Actually, I think there was a picture, I think maybe on Facebook that.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. It was not pretty. It was not.
To be honest, it didn't look like you. I mean, it just.
No, a lot of people say that.
The two different pictures. Maybe this is my brother, or my brother from another mother here. So.
A lot of people say there's no way that's you, and I say, trust me, it's me. And I feel bad looking at the picture for the person that was in the picture. And because that was me, because I know all the internal feelings and stuff. So it's crazy.
Isn't it great though to look back and just see where you are now versus where you were at that moment? I mean, what an encouragement that would be, an internal encouragement that would be to get up.
What was cool? What was cool about that too is that during that process, it happened in probably the stage of about 12 to 18 months. I think 12 months, like most of it happened, but all the rest was like within the probably the 18th month. During that's a relatively small amount of time to go from my before to the after when you look at those pictures.
Yeah, that's a lot of weight.
And a lot of people at the gym would come up to me and ask me, dude, what are you doing and stuff? And I really enjoyed, once I got to the point where I felt like, okay, I'll tell you guys what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. At first I felt like an idiot, because, it took a while to work, but I really enjoyed helping the people that wanted that help, because I know like that taught me in business, like if we're doing Facebook ads and stuff, we have to know our ideal clients' pain points almost better than they do. Like, I know the pain point of being overweight. Nobody could tell me anything I don't know because I lived it, I experienced it. And when you know the pain points really well for an audience, then you can win, even if you spend less money. And you don't have to experience it necessarily to know it. There's ways you can know it without going through it. But I learned, that was a really good lesson I learned that really translates over to business that helps a lot.
I absolutely, and I'm going to circle back with that in just a second, because that's what I do want to touch on that as we're right after this kind of next section here, where you and I are going to step on an elevator. We're going to go up 10 floors. I want your elevator pitch. You got 1 minute. Tell me what you do. I just hit the button. Doors just closed.
Doors just closed. Well, I would ask you. I would be asking you. Tell me about your business. What's your biggest
online? I sell stuff online, and I want to somehow increase my marketing.
And I would ask you, the biggest mistake I see businesses make, is this you or not, is they don't have a system that can reliably bring in ideal customers or clients and turn them, leads into business.
Right.
Do you have a system that's working for you that you can turn on, that you can scale? Yes or no? And you're probably going to say no. Or else you'd have enough business, right?
Yeah, that's right.
We help.
Talking about getting coffee on the elevator then.
Yeah, right.
If I have a system, then
let's get a LaCroix and let's just go shoot the breeze and talk football. Now, so what I would say is we help entrepreneurs and businesses like yours tune out all the noise and differentiate themselves so they attract clients to them without chasing. A lot of people go out and chase, and when you chase, it's hard to get paid what you're worth. So we help you attract by using a system and a framework to make it happen. And I didn't say it best. You know who said it best? Was Mark Cuban from Shark Tank. He said, unless you have a reliable, scalable, duplicatable way to bring in leads and convert them to business, then you don't have a business, you have a hobby. And so many entrepreneurs and businesses that I see out there are running their business as a hobby, and it's dangerous because if they keep doing that, they might not be around very long. It's scary.
Yeah.
So that's basically what we would be talking about. I would try and get you to do most of the talking, to be honest, but that would be, when it's time for me to talk, that's where I would go with it.
And by the time I figure out I've got to have a system, you're there with the answer.
Yes, absolutely. That's what we do.
Always be closing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we do. That's one of the things that we do that we feel like we're pretty different than a lot of other types of agencies and people that are out there. We don't rely on hope at all. Mm-hmm. And that makes a big difference. I know how it feels to rely on hope because I did at first. I think a lot of people go through that.
Yeah.
And I don't want that feeling ever again,
Right.
And so I help others not have to deal with that or get them out of that if they are.
Well, I told you I'd circle back with the kind of the pain point. You mentioned that just briefly just a second ago, but I'm curious, since you started your own, full-time gig here, what have been one or two pain points that you've experienced or you experience on a fairly regular basis, internally within your marketing agency that you think, and it's just a constant, thing that we run into, and maybe our listeners could speak into that as well. It's kind of the whole idea of the rising tide is, to have the community. We have a pretty learned community of listeners here that kind of do all kinds of different things within this space and are getting into it. They may be able to offer some helpful, input or feedback on this too, or just they may learn from it. So what are one or two?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I'm always a believer, everybody can learn from everybody no matter what. So I would say by far, number one is finding good enough people. Personnel, that's a big challenge. Part of it is my fault. I have really high standards. When I take on a client and stuff, I treat clients like family. Mm. And if somebody, I have to be able to trust somebody. Here's the problem that I see out there in the market. There's not that many practitioners out there of Facebook ads and digital marketing that are really, really good, that are like true practitioners. There's a lot of people that are trying to be, and there's a lot of people that say, I think Gary Vee said it best. He said there's the headline people or there's the practitioners. And the headline people will just take what they heard here and just regurgitate it here.
Sure.
But what I'm looking for is like the practitioners, people that actually, I'm looking for a skill.
Mm-hmm.
because it's not just like, hey, let's just put up a Facebook ad. There's so much more to it. And so for me, the biggest challenge is finding enough skilled people that fit in, that also have the mindset, they're not negative. They're not going to bring you down, because that's
Right.
important as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
And one of the ways I combat that, and by the way, like if anybody is like a really good practitioner of Facebook ads and you have a good mindset, let's connect. Like there might be ways we could use you if it's the right fit. But one of the ways I combat that too is I am totally willing to take somebody with the right mindset and teach them the skills that they need. They may already have some skills and maybe they just don't have enough yet.
Right.
Because we talked about earlier, like having the right attitude is like super important.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I wouldn't take somebody who had the skill but had a bad attitude.
Yeah.
Because I'm very protective. Like I said, our clients and customers are like family to me. I don't want to disappoint them, So biggest challenge is definitely finding enough good people that, number one, have the skill, and number two, have the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good question.
What'd be another one? Be a second pain point that you experience pretty frequently.
I would just say, time. Time is definitely, there's part of it is my own doing. I have 1,000 different things I'm trying to do that I make myself focus on a few, because that's our philosophy, but there's a lot more that I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way I can do that is to continue scaling and bringing the right people in and putting them in the right spaces. So it kind of goes back to the people as well. But, time is definitely a challenge without a doubt.
Sounds like balancing, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's almost like you're having to continually balance prioritization with scaling.
Yes. Because we want to scale in the right way. The worst thing, not the worst, but a really bad thing is to scale and then let somebody down, like let a customer down because we didn't follow up or something. Like, to me, that's not worth it. So I have to try and scale in a smart way. But so I'm scaling like here, but I want to be way up here,
sure.
And I will be, but it's got to be done right, or else the whole system will break.
I mean, the one thing you mentioned a minute ago is kind of the fear of that transition of going from, this being a side gig to my day job versus full time. I mean, the two things, and I've said this on other podcasts. I mean, the two things that I think an entrepreneur has to have to succeed. Number one, they have to have the fear of failure.
Yep.
And the second, they have to have the reward of success. So if those two things are in place, I mean, it's almost like, to succeed, you've got to be hungry. And if it's a side gig, you're probably not hungry. I mean, It's almost like it's gravy. It's just kind of, it's just icing on the cake a little bit, and if I can kind of turn that tap on and off as I need to, because I've probably figured out all my expenses are being paid through my day job.
Right.
So this is like if I have a vacation fund or I want to play, go see a Seahawks game or something, I kind of fund it through this other deal over here. But once you step out of that safety net, I mean, and you're on your own, I think that your priorities change, your hustle changes, your mindset has to change, and you either succeed or you fail. I mean, there's very few people that would step into that and just kind of exist and manage.
I could not agree more.
To see the whole process and kind of the shift that happens. And I said shift that happens. And
I don't know that you have to leave that one out. It was close.
Yeah. But just the whole thing of shifting that says, okay, it's on me. It is absolutely on me. And there's going to be a bill collector at my door banging on the door saying, hey, we're going to turn the lights off if you don't start paying your bills type thing. So it's I just love to see the kind of the transition of so many people that, life circumstances have led them to, transitioning where I'll appreciate the fact that you said, I probably would have done that on my own.
Yeah.
It's
100% true. It's almost like, I almost wish some people will get laid off. It sounds awful, but it helped me so much. Either that or get so clear that you quit.
Sure.
You got to be smart about it, obviously. But
either way, the next day you're in the same spot.
Yeah. And one of the things I learned from Mark Cuban is that, like, not taking a risk is sometimes the biggest risk of all.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I believe that 100%. If you look at the biggest entrepreneurs ever, they all took big risks. And you have to be able to believe in yourself and bet on yourself and go hard and go all in at whatever it is you want to do. And it's true. Like back when I had the side hustle,
Mm-hmm.
I could just spend my time messing around on social media, on Facebook or this or that, you know? And does it bring you some business? Yeah, it could bring you some. Is it the best thing? Are you to be on there all day for a real business? No, there's a reason you don't see Elon Musk and Tim Cook, you know, and Jeff Bezos, Mark Cuban all day on Facebook. They're not doing lives all day. They're not like, when you have to succeed and it's not a side hustle anymore, you learn really quick the things you need to do in order to actually create income. Mm-hmm. And that makes such a big difference. Yep. By the way, nothing wrong with doing all those things either, like being on social and stuff. I spend a good fair amount of time on social, but there's a line that I make sure I don't cross in terms of, you know, spending my time in a smart way. Right. And I think I see a lot of people my line's here. A lot of people are way up here, and they could be way more effective if they switched it up a little bit, in my opinion.
Yeah. That is a good word. And you know, you're looking at Facebook intentionally. Yeah. You're not just looking at it accidentally. I mean, some people just get on there kind of scroll, and before they know it, it's 30,
they suck you in. It's all built to suck you in and keep you there. Yeah. And a lot of people, like even just the likes, the engagement, that stuff is supposed to give you a dopamine rush. Yeah. And you want more. And like, there's so many people that base their self-worth or their level of success based on vanity metrics like that. That's one of the things that we teach. Forget vanity metrics. I know people that can get 1 million likes that can't monetize it and have no money. Yep. And they've come to me for consulting because of it. Yep. You know, so on its own, it doesn't mean you don't post. I mean, but a lot of people, like, all they do is they're thinking all I need is vanity metrics, and they focus on the wrong thing.
For sure. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, there's a lot of metrics that are non-financial that people that, and I love it. It is kind of that broad category of vanity metrics that say, you know, how many likes do I have? How many shares? How many of this? And is it leading to revenue? Is it right sales?
And is it taking away from something? Like for me, one of the things I want to do is I want to focus on my skills and results for customers and clients. Like I put more of my effort into that than almost anything else, because that's one of my differentiating points. And I think a lot of people put effort into the external stuff. Right. And then when they get to the point where it's time to deliver, sometimes there's issues and stuff. So you have to navigate that. It's going to be different for different types of businesses and people and stuff. But for me, that's helped us a lot.
So I want to kind of take a little deeper dive right now and kind of get in your head for a couple of minutes here, and then we're gonna kind of wrap it up with just really offering you kind of this space to really do a kind of a micro teaching class or whatever. Just say, hey, here's some things that you really want to focus on, because I really want to add value to, not that we haven't added value already, but I really want to close it out, and those that have listened to the entire episode, they get a bonus there at the end.
Definitely. I want to give these guys some tactical things they can go out and use today or tomorrow that will make a difference. So yeah, I like that. Good idea.
So we'll be there in just a couple of minutes. But so tell me, you mentioned quite a few of them, but is there one person online that you look to say, hey, this person just really inspires me, and give me one line reason why?
Elon Musk, because of everything.
Like go to SpaceX. That's it.
Yeah. Hey, Elon, give me a call, buddy. No, Elon Musk for sure is one of them, because he's not just doing business, he's changing lives. He's changed the car market. You know, he's done, and a lot of people love him. A lot of people don't. You know, there's negatives about him too. And I realize that, but for me, I'm inspired by everything he's done, the level he's done it, and also his level of risk. You know, he made all that money after selling, I think it was PayPal and one of his other businesses, and he risked it all. He was sleeping on people's couches. He went from being worth like 800 million to risking it all. He could have lost it all. And to me, that is inspiring and impressive. So he's definitely one of the people I look to. There's a number. I like Jeff Bezos a lot. Look what he's done with Amazon.
That's amazing.
And also like Sarah Blakely of Spanx. I mean, she's a billionaire.
Yep.
She rose from zero to create $1 billion brand.
Probably made it in her living room. Probably
started. Yeah. And I'm inspired by people like that. And there's a lot of good people, but to me, like those are some of my favorites that I really, really pay attention to.
I was driving in DC about 6 months ago and I pulled up behind this Tesla and the license plate said SpaceX. And I thought, I wonder.
Is that Elon Musk in there?
I wonder if that's it. Because he had blacked out windows.
You never know.
You never know.
He's everywhere.
Is there a particular life quote? Is there like a one-line life quote that you said you mark stuff on your hands and stuff like that, but do you have something up, taped up on your?
I've got a couple. I have. You can't see it, but I've got a couple up over here. I'll give you a couple. One of them, and I don't know who said these. I should, but I don't. One of them is, your imagination is the preview of life's coming attractions.
Sound like Walt Disney.
Yeah, that does sound like Disney, doesn't it? I wonder, that might be. And then this other one is actually kind of cool. It's a little bit different. I don't think you hear it enough, but it says, confidence is not that they will like me. Confidence is I'll be fine even if they don't.
That's great.
And I'm a big believer in that. To me, confidence is everything. Like I'm a fan of like Conor McGregor. I love fighting and stuff. And even though he just lost, unfortunately, but Conor McGregor built himself out of nothing. He was on welfare in Ireland 6 or 7 years ago, and now he's worth hundreds of millions. And the confidence makes such a big difference. And so I always try and teach people that you've got to be confident, and it doesn't matter what anybody else says or thinks about you. You have got to be there can't be anything that can shake that. And I really like that quote.
If there was one thing that you could tell yourself pre-startup, one piece of advice, what would it be that you think would be a game changer for you if you could go back and right before you started your agency full time? What is one piece of advice that would be a game changer?
100%. I'm going to use words from Mark Zuckerberg. Just ship it, meaning just do something, put something out there and try and sell it. What so many people do, and I've done it too, is you get an idea for a business or a project. How many people have done this? If you guys are listening or watching, let us know if that's you as well, because I've done it. You get an idea for something and you do all the fun stuff first. Oh, what's my logo going to look like? I need a business card, although we don't really do cards anymore, but what should I have on my website? You do all that fun stuff first. When in actuality, it's like, well, do you have something that people are going to want? And is it good enough to buy? Let's find out. I wish I would go back and start there versus doing all that fun little stuff first, without a doubt. I would just take action and not be afraid to fail and just keep adjusting until something hit.
It's kind of that lean startup mentality. I mean, it really is the Eric Ries, but is it Reid Hoffman that LinkedIn that said, if you're not embarrassed by your first iteration, you waited too long?
Yeah, absolutely. Luckily, I'm embarrassed by a lot of iterations, so I think I passed that test. But I went through all that where I would do the fun stuff first, and I'm always telling people, just find out if you can get a customer first. Do your, just test that out, and then you can merge into that other stuff. So I wish I would have done that much earlier, for sure.
Well, here we're going to bless the listeners that have stayed to the end, because this is a chance we get to kind of transition into the Phil Gramm micro class here. So Phil, you pick the subject. Let's take a couple of minutes and you just say, okay, here's 2 or 3, 4 salient points that I really want to drive home. That if you apply this is really going to be a game changer for you in your business. So you got the mic.
Let's do this. All right. What I want to do is share some things that will absolutely help you guys immediately for most people. So number one, the overriding concept I want to talk about real quick, and then I'm going to get into the tactics, is, and I said it earlier, mindset over tactics.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys just take the tactics and don't have the mindset, you will probably fail. Like, there's a lot more to it. So just make sure that you guys are focusing on your mindset. We don't have enough time to talk about all that today, but like, make sure you pay attention to what you think about and what has an impact on you mindset wise. Now, beyond that, let's talk about some tactics that you guys can actually use right away. So I love advertising. Having a system that does not rely on hope, that brings in leads to you, that attracts them to you so you don't have to chase them, and then you are able to convert them into high-paying clients or customers that actually pay you what you're worth, is very important. So my favorite, the best, easiest way in the world, in my opinion, to do that right now is through paid advertising. It's quick, it's inexpensive, and it's extremely effective, and it doesn't rely on hope. And you can scale it. You can't scale a lot of things, but you can scale paid ads. And so I love things like Facebook ads, Instagram ads, YouTube ads. I'm going to talk about Facebook ads mainly right now, though, because I think a lot of people want help with that and are really familiar with that. But when I say Facebook ads, I also mean Instagram, and you guys also should be considering YouTube. So let's talk about Facebook for a second. So many people advertise incorrectly on Facebook. Now, I'm not talking about like an e-commerce $25 product. If you are somebody who's selling a service, maybe you're an entrepreneur who's selling like marketing services, or you're selling anything that's like a couple $100 all the way up to thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. If you're doing that, chances are you are doing it wrong. And so I just want to give you guys a quick example of why. So Facebook is not a retail store. You know, Facebook is like a social gathering, because when people go on to Facebook, when your ideal customers and clients are on Facebook, they're not there to look at ads, right, Kevin? I'm like, unless they're us, unless they're a marketer or something, like we're interrupting them. So we have to think of Facebook, the platform, kind of like a dinner party. It's a social gathering. That's why they're on Facebook. So I like to give this example. So I'll use you in this example, Kevin, but anybody who's listening or watching, think of yourself in this example as well. I want you to imagine real quick that you were a weight loss coach and you're at a dinner party. It's kind of a small dinner party. There's 20 or 30 people there. And across the room, you see somebody who's really overweight. And you feel like empathy for them because you used to be that way. And you're like, oh, I could really help this person. But it's a complete stranger. You're at this restaurant. It's like a dinner party. Would you get up and walk over to the stranger and say, hey, I noticed you're overweight. Give me your email address. And I'll send you 7 tips on how to fix that.
I can hook you up.
Would you do that in real life?
Not a chance.
Heck no. Yeah. All right, this is a family show, so I'm not going to say, I'm going to say heck no. No way you would never do that. Yet, how many Facebook ads do you see doing just that? Like sending an ad to cold traffic, people who don't know who they are yet, giving no value, no credibility, and just going straight for an email, hiding whatever they have to offer behind an email. It's exactly the same, because what people don't realize on the other end of this is a human. It's a human being. Even though it's through the computer, it's no different than if you were in person. And so a lot of people run ads with no value. They go straight for their email without offering anything. And then they wonder why it doesn't work. And sometimes it can still work. It doesn't mean it'll never work. There is like exceptions and stuff. But for the most part, just like in real life, if you really did that, it wouldn't have a very good effect. It's not going to work very well. And it's the same thing on Facebook. And so what people do is, a lot of times at that point, they'll just say, oh, Facebook doesn't work for me, or Facebook sucks, it doesn't work for my kind of business. Yeah. And it's like, no, it's not Facebook, it's you. I like to give the example, if I gave a football to somebody who has never seen a football before, never thrown it, and asked them to throw the ball, they're not going to be able to throw a 30-yard pass, most likely, and hit a receiver in stride. But if I give the exact same football to Tom Brady or Russell Wilson, they're going to do it. It's not the football and it's not Facebook ads. It's you. So what's the alternative to that? So we've described the problem. How do you fix it? In real life, if you really wanted to help that person, you were at that dinner party, you could get up and go over and just start a conversation with that person. And you wouldn't start it by saying, hey, you need to lose weight. Like you would not do that. So with Facebook ads, we start a conversation by we give value first. Like that is a huge concept. Like that's one of our core concepts that we do is we always give value before even asking for an email. Some people give value, but they hide it behind an email. And I say give value first before you even ask for anything. Because when you give value, it does two things. Number one, you're actually helping somebody first in advance before you ask for anything. So it actually demonstrates that you know what you're talking about and that you care without you having to actually like talk yourself up. You don't have to show that picture that's maybe a fake picture of you in a Lamborghini or,
Sure.
all these shams that you see online all the time. You don't have to do that. You don't have to like brag about yourself. You can just actually help somebody and it shows that you know what you're talking about. And then number two, you differentiate yourself by doing that because hardly anybody does it. Like if you guys listening or watching, go click on 10 ads after watching this, I wouldn't be surprised if 9 or 10 out of 10 are going straight for an email or an opt-in with little or no value.
Yep.
So when you put value first, everything changes. That makes a huge difference. So value first, that's number one. Number two, I believe Facebook video and Instagram is like the number one most undervalued asset to get awareness and get your message in front of an audience right now. We're recording this in November of 2018, and I think it'll still be that way for the next year, maybe two, maybe. But I do think it's going to go 10, 20, 30x higher, like in terms of costs over the course of the next few years. So it's crazy when you think about it. You could literally target so distinctly. You could target yoga moms who are 33 that drink a certain brand of coffee and live in a zip code.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. It's so effective. And by doing so, like you hit the nail on the head. You can match your copy to the segment that you target. A lot of people make the mistake of just doing these broad ads that are just generalized stuff, they try and reach everybody. And by doing that, they reach nobody.
Right.
Versus if you break it up and you segment your content and you match your copy, everything changes. And so video is a great way to do that because it's inexpensive.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our campaigns, we're getting video views at 1 or 2 cents to a targeted audience. That is crazy. Can you imagine like 10 years ago, if you tried to do that, it would have been impossible.
It didn't exist. I mean,
No.
if it did, it's like network, advertising that, during a television show or something.
Yeah, which wouldn't have been targeted, would have been insanely expensive, and you couldn't have done it. Whereas now, we can actually do that for pennies. It's absolutely insane. And like I mentioned earlier, AdWords used to be 5 cents a click, and a lot of times now big keywords are like $50 a click.
Yep.
I believe that right now we're still in like the 5 cent a click range in terms of Facebook video. Like I believe we're in the Wild West and it's going to go up 20, 30, 40, 50x in a few years. But right now you have the ability to take advantage of that. And if you don't go hard on video right now, I promise you are going to regret it. It's a huge opportunity. So going hard on video, going value first. And then number 3, this is a big one, retarget like a beast. All right. You've got to retarget. Most of your success in Facebook ads comes from retargeting, not the first time somebody sees your ad. Most people make the mistake of running a campaign, and if they don't get a sale right away, they think it's a failure. But retargeting is where it all happens. Like people have to see you a few times.
Right.
They want to know, like, and trust you before they make a decision. Unless you're selling like a inexpensive e-commerce product, it's not quite as the same. But for most people out there, they're going to need to see it a few times. And a lot of people I see making mistakes are not retargeting at all, or if they are, they're not really doing it properly. And the other thing too is you've got to know your numbers. Like it would surprise you. I've talked to $1 million business And I'm like, well, what's your cost per lead? What's your cost per acquisition? How much, what's it costing you per click? And they didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, how can you guys make effective decisions on what you're to do tomorrow and next month if you don't know exactly what's bringing in your stuff right now? And that was $1 million business. So if they are not doing it, I guarantee you most just general entrepreneurs or small businesses are probably not doing it either, or they're not doing it right. So like if you track your numbers and then you make smart decisions based on data instead of guessing and hope, that will like put you in front of everybody else.
Right. Now, do you use the built-in analytics for your metrics, or do you have kind of something that you've created on the side? Do you use like, YouTube analytics, you use Facebook, Google analytics, things like that to track that? Or do you, in essence, kind of have your own that you'll kind of bespoke that you built that said, okay, I'm feeding the numbers in and I can determine what metrics I want to measure?
Yes to everything, but we feed it into a dashboard. So we created a custom dashboard in Google Sheets that we use, and it allows us to see the health of our business in one place where we can literally see everything that's going on, and then we can make decisions based on data instead of guessing. So we use all those systems, but then we roll it into our own dashboard, I call it.
Right.
And that is a game changer because I didn't always do that.
Yep.
I actually learned about that from a client who's very rich, and he learned about it from the Rich Dad. You know that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Kiyosaki.
Yeah. The Rich Dad that Kiyosaki wrote about, his name is Keith Cunningham, and he's a big proponent of dashboards and data-based decision-making. And so I learned it from a guy who learned it from him, and it's changed our business big time.
Does it automatically feed your spreadsheet, or do you have to manually import?
You have to manually do it. Yeah. Okay. So it's there's so many different things that we have that we measure. And so there may be a way to automate it through Zapier. Yeah, if you had enough zaps, I need to look into that a little bit more to see if it could truly be done, because there's a lot of moving pieces and stuff.
Sure.
So I have somebody else do it. Like I don't do it myself. Right. I have somebody do it, but it might be able to be automated, which would be even better.
I don't want to talk anybody out of a job, any virtual assistant.
I know. I always got more stuff for them to do. I need more good people. So
let's recap those three. So you said number one, lead with value.
Yep.
Make sure that you're leading with value before the ask. Second thing you said, right now, go hard on video. Because it is an undervalued, underpriced even resource for marketing.
And video ads. Let me be clear. Video ads. Like, hey, if you want to do a Facebook Live or do an organic video, cool, no problem. But you want a lot of people to see it. You've got to put money behind it. Make sure you guys are doing video ads.
And then the third was just retarget like a beast. So do you have statistics on how many times a potential client has to be exposed to something before they buy? I mean, it probably depends on the industry and the thing
it does.
Buying, but I mean, is there kind of an industry standard that says, okay, they got to see it 3 times. They got to see it.
There's a lot of different things, and it varies so much based on industry, based on niche, based on what type of campaign you're running as well. Because are you going for email? Are you going for a webinar registration? Is it somebody who's already where are they in the process? Have they already given value? Like at the top of the funnel, we want to go for awareness and give value first. And if we've done that a lot, then it's easier at the bottom of the funnel when we are going for an action. And like we want more touches at the top of the funnel. We might have 3, 4, 5 touches, but there are some times where we'll do 1 touch and go straight for something, and we'll test everything out. And sometimes that works. Sometimes the other way works, but there's so many different niches and stuff. It's hard to just give a number. By the way, I wanted to add a 4th thing real quick to the thing I gave. It's going to sound cliche, but I promise you guys, I don't mean for it to sound that way, but truly care about your people. When I work with somebody, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, the coaching that I did, when I work with somebody, I truly care about them as a person, and I want them to succeed. And whether you're a service business or a product-based business, like if you put your customer or client first and you really care about them, and you don't just say that, like everybody likes to say it, but if you actually do it, you can stand out even just with that. I mean, you still have to do some of these other things, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of people just going through the motions in business where they kind of care, but they care more about the money. And I promise you, if you care more about your people, your employees, and your customers, then the money will come more than you could even imagine.
Mm. That's that. I'm glad you circled back and added that fourth one on, because I mean, the client that we talked about earlier that was your coaching client, she would certainly affirm that. And I mean, when she talked about the relationships that you had, it was primarily with the fact that, you fed into her.
Yeah.
Instead of just, okay, I'm going to tell you 10 things, you go do them, and then write me a check at the end of the month type thing. So
yeah, it was one of those things where like, I knew that she was taking action and like an eager learner.
Uh-huh.
And like that, like just it motivated me. I just like wanted to just keep giving more and more, because it's kind of like if you teach somebody to build a building and all of a sudden they start building this amazing building, like you want to see that building, you want to see it through and then see, oh, what if they build a bigger building, and so just the true caring. I've got a couple other people I've done that with, and to me, it makes me so happy to see them out there doing stuff and succeeding. And that's why I do it.
Well, I can tell even the time we spent here that I can tell that really is a personal character driver for you. It's not just something that you've got on the wall that you try to make sure your employees are doing, that you lead with that. And I just really appreciate the time that you've taken tonight, Phil. And I know that those that have listened through this chat we've had tonight, we really closed it well, and with the information that you provided for them, and I know that it will be a game changer for them, and it really is a overused term, a value bomb that you ended with. So wrap us up tonight. Tell us how we can best find you online, and if there's just one last piece of advice you want to leave the listeners with, you can just close it out.
All right, great. You guys can find me at philgrammdigital.com. And that's also my Instagram and my Facebook. I think it's all Phil Gramm Digital, we're everywhere. And I will say, like, last two quick things. Number one, you guys focus on one or two key ways of growing your business. In my opinion, a lot of people try and do 100 different things, but if you can get really good at a couple, that's why, like, if you go to my Facebook and go to my Instagram, I don't post all day. I'm not sitting there on that all the time. Like I do certain things that work really well for us. So don't feel like you have to do. Sometimes I talk to people that feel like they have to post 10 times a day. They've got to go on Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Google. They have to have a podcast. They have to do, like, when you add all that stuff up, it's insane. And they have to take care of their customers and all these other things. Don't feel like you have to do it all. If you like doing it all, it's awesome. Do it. or if you can pay somebody to help you with that stuff, that's awesome. But if it's just you and your time is limited and stuff, you don't have to be overwhelmed. You can make things happen just focusing on a couple key things. And then secondly, again, like I said, I'm at philgrammdigital.com. If you guys have any questions, like, I'm just I love helping people. I can't take a lot of time, but I'm totally willing to answer questions. I'm not going to pitch you guys. We teach attraction marketing. We don't chase business anyway. So, like, for me, if I can help somebody, I know it's going to come back to me in goodwill. And if you guys, no question is dumb, unless it's about the Seahawks losing, and then, we might not be able to be friends, but, you guys, I'm super happy to help if you guys have any questions. And also just appreciate you guys. If you listened or watched this whole thing, like, you are in like a 1%, because most people won't do that. So congrats to you guys, whoever did that. If you're watching, unless you skipped forward, if you cheated, you know who you are. If you skip forward, get back, watch it all. But no, I appreciate your guys' attention. Thank you so much for being here. And Kevin, thank you for having me on. Like, I love what you're doing. I love that we have cool backgrounds, cool little backgrounds that semi-match, and I appreciate.
You got to get on YouTube to see what he's talking about.
Oh yeah, that's a teaser.
That's a
Come
teaser.
on over to YouTube, subscribe to Kevin's channel, and if you're
all in on video.
There's a little call to action there.
Well, Phil, I want to wrap up tonight with a quote by a French writer called Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. He said, "If you wish to build a ship, do not divide the men into teams and send them into the forest to cut wood. Instead, teach them to long for the vast and endless sea." I thought, what a great way to end this podcast, but by casting vision of how all boats can rise in a rising tide. Phil, thanks a lot for joining us tonight.
Love it. Thank you, Kevin.